Hi, athletes, parents, weekend warriors. My name is Dr. Michael Harper. I'm a non-operative sports medicine specialist at OSMS. Today we're at Synergy Performance, and we are going to be talking about how to prevent hamstring injuries. All right, when we're talking about injury prevention in sports, we talk about strengthening, flexibility, optimizing movement patterns, and then having good nutrition and hydration. All right, so for good injury prevention, we always have to have a good warm-up. To start out warm-ups, a lot of times we start out with some leg swings here. Lauren's gonna be demonstrating that for us. And so we can do it both in the forward, backwards, and also side to side. And that'll be able to get both the hamstrings as well as the hip abductors and adductors. All right, another way to warm up those legs or be able to do some walking toe touches. Lauren's gonna demonstrate that for us as well. Yep. And so one way is as walking, reaching down towards the ground. And then another way is actually swinging the legs up and touching your legs that way. That gets the blood moving, get you ready for exercise. All right, another way to warm up these hamstrings is to be able to actually jog backwards here. And so Lauren's gonna demonstrate that for us. And while doing so, it's gonna be reaching back there, really activating those hip extensors. All right, so after we have a good warm up, we're gonna be working on strengthening these hamstring muscles here. And so there'll be a lot of exercises working on the eccentric contraction of your hamstrings. All right, a good exercise to work on these hamstrings is actually called RDLs. And then Lauren's gonna be demonstrating that for us here. You can see that she has dumbbells in her hands. You can do this with a dumbbell or a bar. A big important factor of this is making sure you're keeping a flat back as you're going down. And you should be feeling that in your buttock and your the thigh muscles there for you in those hamstrings. So you can also do it with the bar as Lauren's demonstrating here. Also things to look at is having your feet shoulder width apart. And if you want additional challenges, you can add more weight, or if you're looking at to strengthen one side or the other, you can actually do these single leg as well. Another way to work on this posterior chain here is glute bridges. And so Lauren's gonna demonstrate that for us here. And so you can start out with more of an easy task where you're on the ground flat and you'll be lifting your hips up into the air here. Yep, and then bringing that up, and then bringing that back on down. And that really can activate that posterior chain, those buttock and hamstring muscles here. Another variation here is actually using it with some weight. And so utilizing a bench bar, and then also having that bar there. So your shoulders are nice and flat and stabilized, and then bringing up those hips there. That again is working on that posterior chain here. And then another variation of that glute bridge is actually raising those legs on up. And this makes it a little bit more advanced than when you're just laying flat on the ground. Again, working on those posterior chain muscles here. All right, another exercise to work on this posterior chain and these hamstring muscles is leg curls. Lauren's gonna demonstrate this for us here. And so you'll be laying on the ground with your heels on the ball and then slowly bringing that ball towards your butt there and really activate again those hamstring muscles in that posterior chain here. Make sure you're doing this nice and slow and controlled. Safety is key with this as well because you don't want those feet falling off of that ball. For these exercises, we want you to incorporate them into your exercise routine at least 2 to 3 times per week, really focusing on these hamstrings and then preventing injuries. With these exercises, we're going to have about 3 sets and then doing about 8 to 10 reps per set. All right, and so when we're first starting out a new exercise routine, it is important to start light, go slow. We want to avoid actually causing an injury from starting a new exercise routine. And so keeping the reps a little bit lighter and then also making slow, focusing on your form. Other things that you want to avoid is things like static stretching prior to activities, because there actually is data that shows that doing a static hamstring stretch, where you're on the ground not moving, can actually increase risk of injury. So we want those dynamic stretches that we showed earlier in the video. So if you have any questions, concerns, or injuries, do not hesitate to reach out by calling our number or scheduling online. If you have an acute or a new injury, we do have a walk-in clinic that now has extended hours until 7 p.m. Monday through Thursday and until 5 p.m. on Fridays.